Hello everyone, welcome back to War vs. Conflict. Today we are diving deep into one of the most critical military and geopolitical developments shaping the Middle East and global security right now: the growing importance of Iran's missile arsenal and the unmistakable shift of United States military forces toward Iran's borders. This is not a routine deployment, not a symbolic move, and not just another headline. This is a calculated response to a weapons system that has quietly transformed Iran into one of the most dangerous regional powers without relying on air superiority or nuclear weapons. Understanding why Iran's missiles matter explains why Washington is repositioning aircraft carriers, missile defense systems, special forces, and strategic bombers across the Gulf, Iraq, Syria, and beyond. From the outside, Iran's military posture appears defensive, rugged, and resilient. Iran does not project power through flashy aircraft fleets or overseas bases like the United States. Instead, its exterior military doctrine is built around geography, concealment, and denial. Iran's missile infrastructure is dispersed across mountains, underground silos, hardened launch sites, and mobile platforms stretching from western Iran near Iraq to the eastern borders facing Pakistan and Afghanistan. Satellite imagery has repeatedly shown missile bases carved deep into rock, tunnels extending for kilometers, and launch systems that can emerge, fire, and vanish within minutes. This exterior layer is designed to survive first strikes and still retain retaliatory capability, which alone forces the U.S. military to reconsider traditional dominance strategies. Iran's coastline along the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz adds another dangerous dimension. Anti-ship ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and fast attack launch systems are positioned to threaten one of the world's most critical energy choke points. Any conflict scenario instantly risks global oil supply disruption, which is why U.S. naval assets are increasingly concentrated nearby. This external positioning is not about invasion. It is about deterrence, containment, and rapid response. The U.S. understands that Iran does not need to defeat American forces outright. It only needs to impose unacceptable costs. Moving deeper, the interior of Iran's missile program reveals why it commands such strategic respect. Unlike many regional arsenals, Iran's missile development is largely indigenous. Years of sanctions forced Iran to build its own supply chains, guidance systems, propulsion technologies, and warhead designs. Inside Iran's military-industrial complex, engineers have refined solid-fuel missiles that can be launched quickly, require less preparation, and are harder to detect. This interior capability means Iran does not depend on foreign suppliers during wartime, making sanctions far less effective as a military constraint. The depth of Iran's missile inventory is staggering. Short-range ballistic missiles target regional bases. Medium-range missiles can reach Israel and U.S. assets across the Middle East, and increasingly precise systems threaten hardened targets once considered safe. The interior doctrine emphasizes saturation attacks, overwhelming missile defenses through volume rather than perfection. Even advanced systems like Patriot and THAAD can be strained under coordinated salvos. This is a nightmare scenario for planners because it shifts the cost-benefit balance of any military strike against Iran. Performance is where Iran's missile arsenal truly changes the game. Accuracy has improved dramatically over the past decade. What were once area denial weapons are now precision strike systems capable of hitting runways, command centers, fuel depots, and radar installations. Iran demonstrated this capability during missile strikes on U.S. bases in Iraq, sending a clear message that it could respond directly without proxies if necessary. That performance shocked many analysts because it proved Iran could calibrate escalation rather than act blindly. Speed and survivability are equally critical performance factors. Solid-fuel missiles reduce launch preparation time from hours to minutes. Mobile launchers complicate targeting. Underground silos provide protection against preemptive strikes. Combined, these elements mean Iran can sustain missile operations even under heavy bombardment. The U.S. shift of forces toward Iran's borders is partly an acknowledgement that neutralizing this capability would require sustained, high-risk operations rather than a quick campaign. Safety features, in military terms, translate to command and control reliability, redundancy, and escalation management. Iran has invested heavily in ensuring its missile forces can operate under electronic warfare, cyber attacks, and kinetic strikes. Multiple command layers, hardened communications, and autonomous launch doctrines reduce the risk of total paralysis. This safety design is not about preventing accidents alone. It is about ensuring retaliation under worst-case scenarios. From Washington's perspective, this increases the danger of miscalculation, which is why deterrence and presence become preferable to direct confrontation. Another critical safety aspect is Iran's integration of missiles with regional allies. Hezbollah in Lebanon, militias in Iraq, and forces in Syria create a distributed threat network. This means any conflict with Iran immediately becomes multi-front. U.S. forces repositioned toward Iran's borders are not just watching Iran itself. They are monitoring the entire regional ecosystem that could activate simultaneously. Missile defense systems are now deployed to protect allies as much as American personnel. The unique selling points of Iran's missile arsenal lie in cost efficiency and strategic leverage. Compared to fighter jets or aircraft carriers, missiles are cheap. Iran can produce them in large numbers and upgrade them incrementally. Each missile forces the U.S. to spend exponentially more on defense, interception, and readiness. This asymmetry favors Iran in prolonged standoffs. Additionally, missiles serve as both military and political tools. Their mere existence reshapes negotiations, deterrence calculations, and alliance dynamics. Iran's missiles also compensate for weaknesses elsewhere. Without air superiority, Iran relies on denial strategies. Missiles deny freedom of movement, deny safe bases, and deny escalation control. This makes Iran uniquely resilient against technologically superior adversaries. The U.S. shift of forces reflects a recognition that traditional dominance does not guarantee decisive outcomes against such a strategy. When discussing price, the comparison becomes stark. Iran's missile program costs a fraction of what the U.S. spends maintaining its regional posture. Yet that investment forces the U.S. to deploy billions of dollars worth of assets: carrier strike groups, stealth aircraft, missile defense systems, and logistical networks. The price is not just financial. It is strategic bandwidth. Resources tied down in the Middle East are resources not available elsewhere, including the Indo-Pacific. This is a key reason why Washington is cautious yet firm in its response. The price also includes political risk. Any misstep could escalate rapidly, dragging allies into conflict and destabilizing energy markets. That is why the U.S. force shift is calibrated, defensive in posture, and focused on deterrence rather than provocation. It signals readiness without crossing red lines. In conclusion, Iran's missile arsenal matters because it redefines power without air dominance or nuclear weapons. It forces the world's strongest military to adapt, reposition, and rethink escalation. The U.S. shift of forces toward Iran's borders is not a sign of imminent war, but a recognition that deterrence must be visible, credible, and constant. As long as Iran's missiles remain survivable, precise, and numerous, they will shape every calculation in the Middle East. The balance of power is no longer just about who has the biggest military, but who can impose the highest cost. And in that equation, Iran's missiles have become impossible to ignore.